What's going on, you guys? Welcome to the first episode of Wins and Whiskeys. I'm here with the rest of my team. We're here with
Daniel Isaiah Ramirez.
Kyle Waterbury.
Anthony Vang.
All right, and we're going to be talking about a lot of ideas in terms of the YCS is coming up, and we're keeping you guys updated every 2 weeks or so to be able to make sure that you guys are up to date, give you guys a little bit of insight going into these events. So without further ado, we're going to all introduce ourselves, tell us our accomplishments so you guys know a little bit about ourselves. So we'll start off with Vang over here.
I'm team owner. 2 regional tops. One just past weekend at Seattle for the first week of SIAC, and then one in God knows when. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just decided to start a team, and now all the guys are here.
One of the teammates. I've had a few tops. Notably, I've topped for like the last 3 weeks, like on a streak. Like I won two of the regionals we went to, and I topped the third one. So I'm on a little bit of a hot streak. So I'm gonna keep.
He's the person to beat right now.
I agree on that. Again, Daniel Isaiah Ramirez. I have a few regional tops and a circus series top, if you want to count that, which I actually topped with Twin here. But we got obliterated in top 16. Not so much anything else other than that in my career. Just a fellow Yu-Gi-Oh player that just loves to play the game and just discover new things. And
What do you mean, man? You're known as the branded player on YouTube right now.
I guess so.
With
I
the deer
guess so.
servant.
We have the Brandon player, we have the Mathmech
deer
player.
servant. What do you want to call it? Pioneer. Now it's in everybody's main decks, in and out. But yeah, I guess you could call that accomplishment. Also in sense of what do you want to call it? Influence. I did help build the Metaphor Zoo deck back in the day too. So I mean, I guess if that's something to be proud about. But other than that, yeah, I just love to play the game and just try to get better every day.
And then I'm Daniel Ramirez Medina. So we have the exact same name, and that's actually how me and Twin actually met. But everybody calls me Slump or Slumpy. And then my really close friends I've met since childhood call me Danny. I have a Nationals top 64. I have a second place at the 200th YCS, and I topped YCS Portland and Pasadena back-to-back during salad format. I have over 25 regional top 8 or betters. I topped the ARG with Twin. I topped the ARG in Vegas. That's if you count those. But yeah, I mean, I love to judge a lot. Sometimes you guys will see me at Seattle or Portland head judging. But I've kind of stepped away from that, kind of taking more action towards the team aspect and trying to make sure that we're all growing up together.
And then
And
behind
obviously the cameraman behind us. Got Leon.
The man who makes this all possible.
Yes. He is a godsend for us, honestly. Without him, none of this would be possible.
Let's get to the first top. Yeah.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I think a great topic that we would kind of want to bring in is kind of like what you really need to do before going to an event, whether it's proper practice, making sure you're well established before going to an event, or if it's just making sure that you yourself are fine. Like you should never be going to an event if you yourself do not feel like mentally available to be able to go. I think that's a huge important as well.
It's hard for me to attest to that because I only go to events when I don't feel good or don't want to be there. So, and it's been that way for like 3 weeks, and I've won twice.
or we have to convince him to play.
But you got to make sure you don't eat as well.
Yeah, also
That's
can't.
all.
Yeah.
Or eat Popeyes.
Yeah.
So for those of y'all who don't know, Vang has this little, I don't know what
Superstition.
superstition where before an event you have to get Popeyes, and somebody in that car will get Popeyes.
That's crazy. We're like
Well,
4 for
top.
4 or
Yeah,
something
well,
like that.
It's
Yeah.
crazy because we're
Well,
also
3 for 4.
We're also 2 of 2 times that we did not get Popeyes and still tops.
That's true.
But then you won.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you won twice.
So the
Yeah, you won
superstition
twice. After Popeyes, then you won.
Kyle wins when he has Popeyes before, but he'll top if he doesn't.
He has his own superpower on the side.
But yeah, so I think the number one thing before going to the event is obviously how you're going to travel. And I think the biggest thing for the Yu-Gi-Oh community that's really hard is pretty much making sure that if your friends aren't going, finding another way to go. I think that kind of leads into where if you're starting into the Yu-Gi-Oh community, you have to be very social in order to get higher up. Because I feel like if you're not really socializing, you're kind of just staying in your own circle. You're never going to grow. I think that's just a part of life, right? Um, so with that being said, if you guys ever do want to go to an event or anything, it's always good to branch out to those players going, branch out to the friends that you can make. The first couple events are probably going to be hard for you, but I feel like if you get your own group of friends that are from your locals and you're like, hey, like we can actually budget this out where it's cheap, right? If you have a big group of people who have never traveled, and this happened in Seattle, a very good example. In Seattle, they have a UW club, and for Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's just a bunch of people that go to University of Washington. They got a big group together and they travel to nationals. There's I think about like 10 of them, and you just get an Airbnb. You split that; it's going to be way cheaper. And then if you just figure out flights is a whole different scenario. For some people have points. Some people are going to have to fly during weekdays to be able to go and have long layovers. I think it all really depends on what your budget is or what you think you're going to be able to do. You guys have anything on like, I guess, another thing about preparating or preparating?
I could
preparing
say that
yourself?
as far as like growing as a player and like even in the community, I could attest to that just because I kind of experienced that even traveling like to your area for all these years. Like when we started becoming friends and I started talking to your people and like your people met my people here in California. When I go over to Washington and stuff like that, people who I've never met in my life just seem to know my name and just know who I am. So it's kind of cool that you do make connections and you do make friends like that, and it actually does help you grow as a player as well because that means you get new test partners, you new ideas that you may not have thought of from other people, and then that's how you kind of tap into your creative side and your friendship side for people that goes for the longevity part of the game. And when you look back at all the years that I've been playing, I can definitely contest that. That is absolutely true. That just talking to people can change your quote unquote Yu-Gi-Oh life like in a blink of an eye. So I can definitely contest to that.
I think we should talk about more specifically like what we do specifically as individuals and as teammates, like when we're all together and when we're not together before we do go to events. Like let's go in depth on that. So like specifically like us three, Daniel, Kyle, and I, we test a lot. Like, and I'm the type of person where I don't like to do it online. Like I do not like DB, but if we have to, then I'll do it. But I'm more of like an in-person player, and we like before events we'll test like 2 to 3 times a week in person. Me and Kyle, for the past month and a half, 2 months, it's been almost like every other day, if anything. So like I think depending on the type of person you are, it can help whether like you can do online if you're comfortable with it and you just get on a Discord call with a bunch of people, or if it's in person. I think testing is the biggest prep that I can attest to, just because like sometimes you're testing against the same deck back and forth, and usually we play game ones, but like just drawing 5 different cards always creates a different scenario. And then and sometimes we'll like switch up decks. Like I'll switch it to a different deck in the meta, and then that changes the whole thing also. Like it changes how you play, how you think, thinking of different lines, thinking about different situations that could happen. And then that also branches into like what cards can I play that covers both things? What cards can I not play? What cards should I not play? Things like that. So I think we should talk about specifically what each of you guys do specifically before an event, or like before like let's say like the past 3 weeks happen. Also, we know that there's a lot of events coming up in the future now. What are you guys doing to prepare for that specifically?
Yeah. Well, I'm a very solitude type of person. Like, I do a lot of my stuff when we're not testing just by myself. I like to know what almost every single card that's like could be relevant could ever do.
He's my encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You name a deck, I probably know what it does, and I've probably played it just because I'm that type of person that likes to try everything just to see like what I want to fall into, which like helps because at these events we're going to, sometimes we see the crazy, the weirdest stuff, like and play against the weirdest stuff, and most of the time I will know what it does. Um, I also don't really like DB. I don't like the interface. I don't like the games take really long, and I'm a very fast player, so like I need to be able to like hurry up and get over with one game and be on to the next. I play a lot of EDO Pro just because I can simulate by myself. I don't have to play with anybody else. I'll have like two tabs open and just do everything I need to do. So that's how I do a lot of my stuff. Um, it's hard because I am a solitude type of person. So like a lot of what I come up with is just theory. So and it doesn't get like super tested until we're all together. A lot of times it doesn't get tested until I'm at the event because I'm used to like because I did a lot of remote dual stuff obviously. So like I'm used to just being by myself and like getting all my theory out and like maybe connecting with someone else after a while. So like that's like how I work best is like just like in small groups. I never really do what great in like big groups, but um, have tried at least to branch out a little bit and just not be by myself. These last 3 weeks, obviously I've helped test a little bit, but after like since I am on Mathmech right now, everybody knows that it gets a little boring to test. So I've just been trying to test other things with everybody just so I can have something fresh in my head. Yeah, that's kind of how my process works.
Yeah, I would say that I'm kind of like in a different kind of way. I'm the same. I like to collect data. I know that some people don't have the patience to really like look at every event, look at every deck that's being played, look at every deck list that's being put out and stuff. And I really go heavy into the DB and the YouTube algorithm to kind of get that kind of information. I know I'm not very fond of DB either, but when I am by myself, I am playing games on DB because whether you like it or not, I think DB is like one of the bigger resources that we have to see what people are trying and what people are playing. And it's just outright free information because, coming from a background of Yu Gi Oh! From back in the day, like 2008 and 2010 when like YouTube was really like starting to take off, information wasn't so like available to everybody, and that's like coming from like a player and a deck building aspect where people were never telling you what's in their decks, people weren't telling you like what cards existed and so forth like that because nobody was taking the time to go through like card pool. And now we're in a generation where everything is available to you, so there shouldn't be any reason why that like you can't find a way to prepare for these events or prepare your decks in that kind of way. I think a lot of deck building and preparation, it just really comes down to like discipline because you have to have the patience to be able to read everything. You have to have the patience to figure out interactions and so forth like that. And that's kind of how like I figure out my deck building and those aspects because I do like to discover new things. As corny as it sounds, I've told Vang about this before, but like there's a lot of things like for example in Patrick Hope theory and like in the book Road to King that he talks about how um, oh man, I'm drawing a blank what I was about to say. I'm sorry. My mind was going like a lot, like 1,000 miles per hour, and now the mic is falling. Oh no!
Just take it off. No, I think I know what you're getting to because he and I talked about it a lot. He wants me to read the books so bad. I just hate reading, but
Players.
yeah, but I think yeah, I think what he was alluding to specifically was just like we're in a type of era where like everything is available to you. If you're not using it, you're losing. What are you guys doing?
I'm not taking this off.
Oh, okay.
I'm supposed to take this off, right? I'm not tripping.
No, you're not supposed to.
I'm not supposed to take this off. God damn
Oh
it!
no.
Well, you see.
I just want to punch this right now.
It's okay. We can edit. We can hella edit this out.
We could totally edit this part out.
Or-
Or just keep it in for
or we can
Wait, so what do
leave
you?
this.
value.
How do you?
I'm definitely keeping this in.
Do you
Value.
like? Am I supposed to like unscrew this? I'm not tripping, right? This is what you guys wanted. You said. Wait, hold on. Dad, help.
What the hell was I gonna say?
You were talking about the Book of the King. You were talking about how
Road King. But it was about what I was talking about specifically.
We can hella see your hands in the camera.
I can just hold it. It's fine. I can just hold it. God, it's gonna bug me. I was just talking too fast. I just kind of lost my train of thought.
That's okay. It's not a video format. We're having fun with it.
Yeah. My I'll remember if you want to go for now.
I'll give you randomly and be like, wait, hold on.
I got it.
Think.
My mind is like literally buffering right now. It has like the circle.
Yeah. So for me personally, so when I test, I'm very fortunate to have Tristan Bridges and Logan in my testing circle, as well as the other boys from Seattle. For me personally, I am very busy in terms of I don't have a job. I only do like Yu-Gi-Oh like full time. I quit back in October of last year and decided to take a move towards like I guess like something that was more comfortable for me because I always wanted to never have to work for anybody in my life. I feel like if I only wanted to work for somebody, it would be to work for somebody to get at their same level. And that's just something that I've had ever since I've been a kid. When I worked for my aunt, I wanted to open my own restaurant, so I worked for her, got screwed over, and then decided not to do that anymore. Worked with my homie, tried to build his brand, and in the middle of that, I decided, I'm helping them build their brand, and I feel like I want to do that too. So I decided to take my own path. But going back to testing, whenever I can get on, I'll dedicate my nights just to testing with like Tristan and Logan and Griffin and all the boys back home. Shout out to them. Specifically, we have a group chat called the Clussy Town chat. So shout out to Clussy Town. But we pretty much just get in Discord and we'll talk and we'll theory about a lot. And I usually just go in and I watch, usually because I'll be watching them on my computer monitor while I'm like organizing cards or I'm getting stuff done. And I'll try to dedicate any free time I have. And we'll stay up until like 5 a.m. So my thing is I'm very good at it's like a visual learner. So I can watch somebody do a combo or I can have somebody explain me the combo. And then I'll just keep running like that scenario in my head over and over and over again. And then once I get on the paper, it's like, boom, I'm doing it, right? But in preparation for an event, once it gets closer to the event, that's when I actually start. I'll usually have the cards because a lot of times when we go to events, like the cards don't come out until like the day before, or the week before. So it's really hard to have those cards unless you like proxy them. But a lot of our stuff is online because, we have a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest. We have people that are in like Everett, which is like an hour and a half north of me. We have Tristan living in like Portland, Vancouver area, which is like 2 hours south. And I'm just like straight in the middle. As for me, I usually just travel to either one of them and we always just meet up in person and get that done. So like I was saying, for me personally, I'm a huge visual learner. I can do DB all the time. It's just when it comes to like actually actually testing, it's more of like they're doing the testing. I'm just kind of spectating, kind of like in a coach's way. So yeah, that's just how I pretty much work out.
Okay. Let's move on to the next topic. So decisions that we took during the week leading up to the regional that we played in for SIAC specifically.
I think we can start off with LA going into Seattle because we had a huge thing.
Yeah, so like LA, the LA regional that Kyle won, of course, before SIAC came out. That was the first week that actually Slump got on the team. And we decided to stay with all together and he was just close by. And we talked about what we should do going forward, specifically the next day, which was the LA regional or the Pasadena regional, and then what we should do going forward to the next week. Because honestly, I was still iffy about going, but Daniel convinced me to go, and I guess it worked out. But like, let's start with like Pasadena regional, specifically. I died that event like round 3, so let's not talk about me. Let's talk about specifically Kyle. Like,
yeah.
Let's talk about your decision why you played Mathmech, and specifically why you think it did so well.
Well, specifically, the reason I picked Mathmech is because it was the week before Cyberstorm Access. I really don't want to learn anything else. I was kind of over the format already. So I played it at like locals the week before, and like I didn't. It was fine. Like I won, and was like, okay, I'll take this. I just don't have to. I The format was starting to feel kind of stale, so I just needed something that I haven't played, but like not something that I have to invest too much time into. Which Mathmech, obviously, in most people's heads, is that kind of deck. Looking looking back on it now, it is like there's like slightly more decision trees you have to go through, but like it's still not anything too crazy. I think it did so well because not only was no one, I don't think as many people were prepared to play against 15 hand trap decks because that wasn't the format we were in. It was the format we're in now. So that also helps. But I'm, as I've said before, as I'm a really fast player, like I have to have a deck that lines up with me being able to play that fast, so I don't feel bad about playing as fast as I do. Um, I think the average game in the last like 3 weeks is maybe like match is maybe 10 minutes.
Heard him. He 2-0'd everybody. He said it.
The average increases on those games where I went to game 3,
3-0.
obviously. But for that event, I wasn't like too sold on it being like the best pick, just because it was still cash and everything. So like, but like I was very confident in being able to hand trap someone 3 times and
And
kill them
activate
on the
circular,
forward.
and
Yeah.
then yeah,
To be honest, most of my games do not revolve around me acting circular.
that's hella weird. I've seen you 3 hand traps and then 6 card circular. I win.
Sometimes that also happens. A lot of the time, it's normal someone hand trap, activate paralysis, and that gets
And
me.
then it does the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also just a mentality people have when they know you're playing Mathmech, just because if you have cards in your hand, they think they're actual cards.
Traps the whole time. I've seen people play against you specifically, and they like look at your hand thinking you have multiple hand traps. And I'm like, did he not watch you search diameter in the middle
Yeah,
of your
like
combo?
I'll have like no hand traps.
Yeah.
But they'll still play around them, which will let me just win. I mean, and I'm that type of player who does not do that because I don't care. Like if I have one hand trap and you have like an open board state and it's like a droll or a ghoster, probably gonna use it because if I'm losing, I'm losing anyways. But if I activate and you pass, I win. Because I don't care. I might as well be greedy and win and not be safe. And oh, that's crazy. Everybody has alcohol.
I couldn't find White Claws. I'm so sorry. Do you want to be?
Tony, everybody hates me. It's so
Never
crazy.
that. Never that.
Yeah, so that's just like a player I am. So like going into that weekend, I think it was a good choice. Now, post that, I've obviously figured out that it's still a good choice, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Daniel also topped Pasadena, so he probably has words
That
to-
was crazy.
Yeah, I went back to back from Vegas to Pasadena
With Popeyes.
with Popeyes. Yeah, shout out to Popeyes. Yeah, I just played Branded again at the event, considering that it was just the last regional of the current format. It was nothing special. It was literally a 1 card difference for my Vegas list compared to the ones that I used in Pasadena. I think the thing about the Branded deck that just gets me, it's not even just like a biased opinion. It's the reason why I could just like never put the deck down is because I truly feel like the deck has like one of the better engines in the game when it gets to access it. It's one of those decks that grinds better than most decks when it comes to resources when you're playing properly, and it's honestly one of the most rewarding decks. And as dumb as it may seem, like again, I come from an era of Yu-Gi-Oh that was really big about technical play, and so like I just seem to like always try to challenge myself to play like harder decks, quote unquote, because like we talk about the skill gap with like branded players all the time, like whenever we're play testing, because like I know that Kyle said this, I know that Slumpy says that, like there's the people that go like mere Jade Pass, and then there's the people who actually know how to play their deck, and then like the deck is actually insane if you know how to properly, combo and get to your lines. And then that's not a hate on anybody or players in general, but there is just a huge gap between actually knowing what your deck does and versus what you see what the deck does against you. And I think that's a big aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh that a lot of people tend to mimic, what they see other people do and not learn themselves. But as far as like why I played branded, I just felt like at the time where I got those two tops back to back, it was just I was too comfortable with the deck, and I wasn't really given a reason to stop playing it. As far as when we went to Seattle for SIAC, excuse me, I got 11th at what was it, Portland. I got 11th in Portland. I lost. I lost the last round of that tournament. What was it? That was a 7 or 8 rounder. Portland. The one you won. Was it 8?
Seven.
It
Yeah,
was
that was a
7.
small. Yeah, because that was a
It
small
was
one.
104 people.
I started 5-0, and then I had to play my teammate Kyle here at table one, and he ended up winning that match. So I just had to win the last round, and I just couldn't pull it out against Cash. I got full zone locked, and my hand wasn't that great game two, so I got swiftly 2-0'd. And then the next day in Seattle, I saw better results. I did finish X1-1, just one loss and a draw, but I ended up getting ninth. Our teammate Logan actually got eighth. He snuck in there because his tiebreaker won, so super happy for him. So I didn't get to go to Santa Clara, unfortunately, just a series of fortunate events I wasn't able to attend, but I'm looking to see what I'm going to be playing this weekend, considering that I'll be going to YCS Philadelphia, because ultimately I want to play the deck that I think has the best chance to win. So honestly, I'm at like 3 to 4 deck choices right now, realistically. But it's more about figuring out what I think is going to give me the best chance to win the entire event. Because, obviously topping is nice and stuff like that, but I primarily want to win whatever that takes. It's kind of what I want to aim for. But that's kind of been my regional season so far. Danny, I don't know if you want to say anything.
I guess I'll talk about my last 4 weeks. So these last 4 weeks are actually super surprising for me. It's the first time in pretty much since I started my competitive career where I'm in a huge slump and I haven't been able to top regionals.
Slump.
Yeah. I guess that's the fortitude that they dictate. But yeah, I kind of figured Pasadena I wasn't going to top because I was playing a really fun deck. I was playing tier like I was in Portland. Um, that event, I actually felt really comfortable with bringing tier. It was more the fact that I just couldn't play and I was breaking and I was playing the same deck list. So, when you break, there's actually just nothing you can do, right? Besides either play a better deck or change your deck choices. And I was playing like 3 of everything. Like I maxed out on Fenrir. I like made my deck as consistent as I could. And I think the thing that made me unprepared for that event was that everybody was already playing the same hand traps you should be playing for SIAC for that event. So people were already main decking Ogre and Droll, and it was really weird to play around those playing tier. Um, so that was kind of expected. That event I was like, okay, like I could sneak in or maybe something to do good. And I think I was out by like round 4 as well. That event I played and I bricked 2 games in a row, just actually unplayable. But it was because I cut barricade blockers. Shout out to Logan for me not playing it. That was my
Hella
choice.
told you guys not to
And
cut that too.
Yeah, I know.
I told Amaro
That was
not
the
to
first
cut
thing I
that.
noticed in your extra deck when we were at the table. I was like, "Where's your barricade blocker?"
I don't know what happened.
I don't even
think,
play this deck. but
I
this
think I
seems
could have for
wrong.
Lambda, and I think it was just because I was so on super heavy samurai with the Lambda loop that I was like, I have to play this loop in tier. It's so good. Like, why aren't we doing
that? That was
this?
that game you played Rob, and you were like, "Oh." You linked, and I was like, "I don't have this in my extra deck."
I hella made sprint, and I was supposed to make barricade blocker, and I was like, why do we put the cards in grave? And I fucked up, and I was like, yeah, all right.
I think specifically though, like the past 3 weeks, or the past 2 weeks, I guess you could say, or the past 3 events, like Portland, Seattle, and this one, you've helped a lot though, like specifically because of the new meta, like you, Logan, and Tristan specifically, because like leading up to when we came to Portland, I knew I was gonna play super heavy, but I didn't know how to play it. Like you saw, like I was playing like the tunneler and the gearbox and whatever, and then like I basically learned it the day before, and then you were like, "Oh, play Logan's list," and and you guys showed me the list, and I was like, "I don't have a choice." And like me and Alberto were sitting on the side, like, "Ah, let's throw these dumb cards in and see what happens." And then like we went to bed, and these two were still downstairs at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. And then Alberto hopped in the shower, and then he was just like, "Yeah, you're not playing those bad cards. That's dumb. You're playing this list." I was like, "All right, I guess I'll listen." And then like Portland, it worked out like seemingly okay. Like I didn't brick that bad. I was doing okay. It just I guess it just wasn't my day that day. But like Seattle, like everything ran perfectly how it should have. Like once I made the changes specifically in the side deck to how I play specifically, then it like ran perfectly. And now like like Santa Clara specifically, there was like 10, 15 people on our list at top tables like the whole day. Like that was the biggest thing. I was like, oh, like this was actually like a very good list. And like I guess that goes to show like when you do top with a list, like for that list specifically, like the Omega Bestial Dispotter loop, if 3 people play the same list, me, Logan, and Tristan, and top with it, it's a good list. Yeah. And I guess you could say that's why a lot of people in Santa Clara played it, because one, the that was the first event in California for SIAC, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also like no one knew where to go from, so they just like I talked to a lot of people that last weekend specifically, and they were like, yeah, I didn't know how to play it, or I didn't know what list to play, so I just went on your guys' YouTube and stole your list, basically. Which was like, that's why we put it out there for everyone to play it. Like the whole, and even like the text with like Sage de Fleur, the Prediplant, the Pendulum, like that showed up a lot specifically this weekend too.
Yeah, I will say that these last 4 weeks have been like, I've gotten a lot of knowledge because I figured out because whenever I play a deck, like even with Goki format, or like even Salad, I'm always trying to figure out how to play around as many hand traps as I can. And I think I figured out this format is that you can't play around all the hand traps. You kind of just have to play into them, which is shout out to Vang, because he pretty much like, he made me like realize that. And then when I started playing, I was like, all right, I'm just going to play through one hand trap and that's it. And that was Droll, Ogre, Gamma, and Ash. And those are the only 4 hand traps I played around. And I felt so much more comfortable. The first 2 rounds, I clapped my opponent, and I was like,
that was like your biggest problem in Seattle, because that's how I played it, and I was just like, well, if they have it, then they have it, and I would sit there and like look at my opponent for a response, and if they don't have it, then I'm just gonna keep going with the original combo. And that, I think that was the conversation you and I had specifically, where I was like, just play it free form, don't think about it. If they hand trap you, then you can diverge a different way. And then once you like, okay, I'll do that, and we tested that, it was better for you like a lot better, because you weren't like, because when you and I tested, you were like playing around 3 different hand traps and I opened 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then at Santa Clara, the first 2 rounds I felt really smooth. The 3rd round I got triple hand trapped all 3 games. The 4th round I played the mirror match. Game 1 I played around the 1 hand trap, played around everything, and just popped off. And he was just dumbfounded because he only had Droll, and I still played around it. He was just like, yeah, you got it. And then game 2, I opened 0 hand traps with Fenrir in hand. I had 1 nib and Fenrir in hand. And just with those 2 cards, I played through a board of Appaloosa, Baron, Savage Dragon, and Regulus with Ash and Ogre in my opponent's hand. Like, my opponent had 6 cards in hand for follow-up, and I played through all that just with those 2 cards, and then put up a Baguska. And my opponent had 6 cards in hand. I'm like, all right, this is really hard because he's gone through everything. Pass. Opponent's just like, kaiju. And I was like, I felt really accomplished after that. I was like, like I played through Ash, I played through Ogre, played through an Appaloosa 2400. I played through everything and just sequenced correctly. And that was like the start of, I was like, all right, I now realize why our lists are so good, because it could break through boards, but also put up like a lot of like different negates to the first. But also after that, I realized that big shout out to Cody Manaby. We were talking like the whole entire regionals. We're talking about how to play around hand traps, pretty much all the knowledge that I've been wanting to try to learn for the last couple of weeks. And Cody pretty much like spoon fed everything to me and was like, here's what you have to do. And the moment he started telling me, I was just like, all right, like it's clicking in, everything's in my brain. And then like I'm watching everybody play and I'm like, okay, he could have done that. And I went up to a couple of our teammates too, because after every event, when I don't do well, no matter what, I'm still looking over my teammates, whether it's they're X3 and they're trying to get their invite, or they're undefeated like these 2 and they're like, they're round 5, trying to get to the next step and just keep going. Like I'm always looking over after my teammates. And I think a huge thing that happened with Julian, because Julian was X3.
He's like one of our newest members.
Yeah. And he got it deck checked and then lost 3 in a row. And he was like, fuck, I really need my invite. What do you think I should do? And I was like, play it out. It's top 48. This is a huge event. You can still get your invite. And after every round from then on, we talked about his plays, and then we went over like sequencing and everything. And when he got his topped, I was so happy for him because he kept going, and I think that's one thing that I really see in like our whole team is that they're go getters. They actually want to get stuff done.
Like even the people who don't specifically have tops, like we're striving to get people who like that's his first invite ever. That's his second regional ever. Like that's a good enough accomplishment in itself. But he was like so hyped to like, okay, now I'll see you guys in North Carolina in like 2 months. Like that's a really big thing that like we should congratulate specifically. Let's go to our next topic. So because technically we played the first 2 weeks of the new set, and we did well with at the end of last set with Daniel, and then moving into the new set with like Logan, Tristan, me with our list, and then Kyle specifically because he did 3 in a row. What do you think this is going to shape out to? Obviously everyone's still waiting, like godforsaken a ban list, but like
I think.
like how do you think the meta is shaping right now?
Well, I think right now it's very. I want to say it's open because there's obviously like dominant things like Cash, Super Heavy Samurai, and I still think like the third is like a toss up between like Purely and Branded. It's like a weird little area, but like I think almost everything is playable if you build it right and you play it right now. I don't think you're forced into anything, which is what I kind of like.
You just left out Mathmech like that?
Yeah, I don't think it's. I don't like this deck. I'm gonna be honest. I've said it multiple times. I do not like this deck. I just don't have a reason to not play it yet. When I'm given that reason to not play this deck anymore, I probably won't play it. The only reason I like playing it right now is because Super Factorial is just Revolt, and everybody knows I really like Gyrator cards. If I could play that deck, I'd probably play that deck. But I think, especially just with like how this new policy document has come out, and like there has been a case of this in the past with like lists being submitted and needing to be changed. I do have this like inkling of feeling there's going to be a list next week right before Philly, and everybody's going to have to change their lists. This did happen during COVID, and in the policy documents they did update it for that. So I have this inkling that it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen next week, it's literally happen. It will happen that Monday. Like, and I do think they've been able to sell this set quite well compared to how I thought it was going to happen. But I do think cash will get hit just to be able to sell this set a little bit more. All the decks lose to a macro.
I think specifically they did that because, I mean, I think it's sold very well because everyone was sick of last format. Like, I almost did not want to play, like, Pasadena Regional? Because what was it? Like, Melfi Sprite, Cash, maybe Mathmech, and, like, Branded and, like, some other whatever decks. Like, that was at least 6 months of the same format.
Yeah, and if you look at content right now, no one wants to see cash. Like it's bad. Like it doesn't. You can play anything else in the world, and everybody will think you're a saint. You're godsend. You play cash, no one wants to watch it because no one cares at this point. Like been there, done that, seen that, played that. Like no one wants to see it. Which I don't think I don't even think the players playing it want to play it anymore. But it does what it needs to do. So like, why fix what's not broken? But
yeah, why fix what's not broken with Mathmech, man?
Because there's a lot broken. I think I think everything's gonna shape out the way it needs to in the next couple weeks. It's just a waiting game at this point, which I know no one can do. No one really likes to do, but it'll happen.
How do you think it's shaping out specifically with Branded towards the meta? Because a lot of people are not respecting that deck right now.
Yeah.
I think the thing about Brandon is it has the most unfair turn one with Gimmick Puppet. I think outside of that, kind of like what Kyle says, it kind of just feels open right now with the fact that Cash is the anomaly of the format where it's the gatekeeper deck for all these other decks to do well. look at the like nationals that just happened over the course of the week, like what was it? There was a top 64 where 50 something of them were cash. You know, and if that data doesn't tell you anything about even with, the power creep that it puts on these other decks, even when a deck like Super Heavy Samurai is a one card amazing combo deck, I mean, is there even anything to really discuss when it comes to like what that deck does to the playing field right now? Outside of like for branded specifically, I feel like again, its hardest matchup is probably cash based on your deck building. And that's why I'm so high on cards like Super Poly and stuff. I know we've had this discussion like over and over. You have to play cards like that to beat that deck specifically. I think in every other matchup, it's pretty much just it's free game. It's just if you know how to pilot your deck, if you know how to deck build specifically for branded, because I think that's the biggest thing about branded is that deck building is a huge part of that deck's success. If you look at it across the board from all the different kind of deck lists there are, there's like the hand trap versions, there's the cross out builds, there's the strictly going first, high rolling build. So I mean, it kind of just comes down to what you think you need to prepare for the most. I can tell you that if I were to play branded, if I played branded in Philly, I'm not. If I play branded in Philly, I think that the deck to beat in the room isn't going to be Super Heavy Samurai.
It's gonna be cash.
It's going to be Cashtira.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing for me, if I was playing branded in that case, is that my deck has been built to beat that deck since the deck came out. Not to say that I'm going to play 12 rounds of cash, but I guarantee you half of my rounds will probably be cash. And the thing that sucks is I don't want to have to pivot to playing cash because the thing is that's probably the deck that's going to win the event.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Let's be real though. It's not a gatekeeping deck. It's a gatekeeping card.
Yeah.
If a Rise was banned, that no one's playing that deck.
Right. And kind of like what Kyle said, like they've been, and you said it too. It's like they've been selling the set pretty well, but I think the sales of this set would skyrocket if a Rise Hard didn't exist. Because, like you said, it's not really much to the deck. If you take away a Rise Hard, the deck's actually fair.
Yeah.
So it's
like
just like,
if you have lock 5 combo, you go for lock 5 combo, and then otherwise it's just like set up small interruptions, rip your opponent's extra deck, things like
it's
that.
just the card design, right? So like if you look at the history of Yu-Gi-Oh just in the past 5 years, it's usually not the decks themselves, it's the card design that Konami puts on these cards that are all these soft locks or hard locks that prevent you from playing the game, back to where the game was always in a state where you always had a chance to play no matter what. But every deck is getting a one card starter, every deck is getting some type of unfair concept, and you have to build your deck, unfortunately, around these concepts just for you to have a chance to play the game. And I think Cash Chair has probably been arguably the worst design in sense of card design in probably the past 5 years for the game itself.
Yeah.
But as far as like where I think branded it's going, I think it purely just depends on what I or any other player believes is going to be the deck that needs to be most prepared.
Slump, you want to start with YCS Chile that's happening literally in 2
Yeah.
days?
So I guess we'll start off kind of backtracking off of Kyle in terms of like the deck shaping up towards that event. I think Chile's going to bring a lot of different decks because while I do agree with everybody that Kashtira is going to be the most represented, I still don't think that for this event there'll be too many representations of the deck. I know a lot of different big name players. Well, we're not stayed to not reveal anything. They've been testing Gold Pride, like the same deck that Sal's topped with. They've been testing different variants of the Super Heavy Samurai. They've been testing a couple other decks. Some of them have even been testing the Mana Dome deck. The thing about decks like that is that some of those decks just don't have a follow-up, which is an issue, right? Because even if your deck can break through boards and still pop off, if plan A doesn't work, there is no plan B. Your plan B is literally just like, oh, I better have the right hand trap, right? It's similar to Super Heavy Samurai's strategy, but Super Heavy still has a follow-up on the next turn, right? You still have a backup Soul Piercer that you can search off of. You have a bike in hand, whatever it is, and you can still rebuild your board. With decks like that, and we've even seen like Charles Turner when he topped the Portland regionals, right? He got top 8 with Mana Dome. That deck is good, don't get me wrong, but like those decks like that lose so hard to draw, and I don't think people actually understand that, right? There is ways where you can play around draw. Obviously, some people you might see play cross out, they might play gamma, they might play call by, whatever it is. Some people are even playing prohibitions in their side deck, which I thought was wild. Yeah.
We were talking about like
We talked
We
about
did
like a
talk
month
about
in advance. We should have played that.
Yeah. The things with cards like prohibition and stuff like that is that it's as easy as saying, "Oh, I only lose to this hand trap," right? But it's also just hard because every single deck in the format is playing like anywhere from like 9 to like 18 hand
Yeah.
traps, right? And I think that was a huge issue for me when I was playing super heavy samurai deck because I would always get 2 to 3 hand trapped every single game. And when I played through it, I'm like, I'm a fucking legend. But when I didn't, I was like, I fucking hate this deck,
Yeah,
right?
this deck sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's an aspect that I had to like learn that it's like the deck doesn't suck. It's just your opponent had the whatever percentage it is, whatever the math
crunched
is.
the numbers.
Yeah, they crunched the numbers. But I think Chile is going to bring a lot of diversity, hopefully copium. But I do think that if there's any weekend for innovation in terms of like really big events, it's definitely going to be Chile. Not only because I don't know if a lot of duelists know this, but events that aren't in North America are actually a lot, at least for me, whenever I've traveled for them, and like I've talked to other big name players, is that those events are like so much easier than American events. So like when it comes to events like that, like Chile, that's going to be the event where it's like innovation is going to be there, and then Philly's going to be like, oh, it's all these people trying this out, so that's going to make Philly like probably equal in my opinion, or it's going to make it harder because you're going to have to play around. Like we were saying earlier, there's so many decks in the format, right? Right now there is, but nobody's like solved anything, right? There's just so much open innovation right now, and I think when it gets to that point, it's going to like the format is going to be crazy. And the worst part, like I was saying, there's definitely going to be a ban list in my opinion right before LA Regionals on June 3rd. Because, like Kyle was saying earlier too, there's always a ban list within a week of when a new set drops or within the policy docs come out. And that is the perfect timing because the policy docs just came out. There's a set coming out the day before LA. So that Monday after the YCS, perfect timing. Because then you have 4 weeks to test for nationals with that ban list.
All right, so you're saying May 29th.
Yes.
Bet. I don't think there's. I think if anything, they probably release it next Monday, and then they're like, but it's not legal until the other Monday after YCS Philly. Because I think
we've seen that too.
Yeah, I think Philly specifically because it's that last weekend of May. They need to see Cash Terror win again so they can be like, all right, we'll ban it now.
I want chaos.
Yeah.
Get legal.
That it's
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend too. So if they do release a ban list, it would have to be on Tuesday, not Monday.
Yeah, that's true.
Or somebody just steps in the office, is like click, and then leaves. Like creates chaos.
Any closing thoughts, guys?
I will say that I actually feel really comfortable for YCS Philly to where I think I could win this event. I've said that in other events, but this one's felt the most prepared for because shout out to Vang and shout out to all these guys. I have been traveling from Seattle to all these events. I actually drove from Seattle to Santa Clara last week on Wednesday. Shout out to Salas for letting me stay at my house or his house, and then Vang let me stay at his house, and then I'm staying at Salas's again, and then I'm driving from here straight to Vegas. Coming back from Vegas, driving straight to Seattle, catching a flight to New York so I can go for YCS Philly, coming back from Philly on Wednesday, and then driving straight to LA, doing another event, and then I finally get my break. I think that's like a little snippet of a sneak peek of we were all thinking about doing Worlds Grind next year. So, be on the lookout for First to Last for sure.
Absolutely. I think from me moving, from Daniel like solidifying himself and, saying he's going to be down to do it, from Kyle doing the same thing, from Slumpy traveling up and down the West Coast, I think we can confidently say, like, you can see us probably doing Worlds Grind next year. Like, there's a very good chance where even if we'll be split up, like, we'll be in areas where, like, everyone could come to a certain part and just hit all the regionals there and do very well. And, like, we show enough I think from the past month, we show a lot of grind just between ourselves, not even to like to other people to see, but like I think we could do it. Like specifically just because we tried hard enough, even the past month and a half.
We want it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, for sure.
Other than that, you want to close this out, Slump?
Yeah, so be sure to follow up on our podcast. We're going to be doing this every other week. We're going to be doing this, like I said at the beginning. After every event, we're going to hopefully do this. You can also catch our YouTube where we're going to be more active. If you guys want to follow our social medias, make sure to join the Discord. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. Also, me and Vang have been doing claim sales every 2 weeks as well, either before or after the podcast, where we're also doing giveaways. So if you guys want to join those, make sure to check us out there. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. And this is Slumpy slumping out.
That's a wrap.
That was 2 hours,
That was 2 hours?
right?
You gotta have the part where it's like about to go like, no. And then it's just like, please stand by. The whiskey, take one.
We're never gonna get this down.
All right, ready? Okay.
Are you staying upstairs?
3.
What's going on, you guys? We're here. God damn it.
4.
Damn it.
Why are you laughing?
You're laughing.
I'm barely even saying anything.